Hello, everyone, and welcome to TTR. This is the UK session, or preview to the UK session, which is coming up in around about 29 minutes from now. Good to have you on board for the last show of the week, and hopefully you've made some money thus far. That's the object of the exercise, after all. Hasn't been an easy week thus far, but we've managed to pick a couple of cherry ripe ones, and hopefully you've been on board those. I'll have a look at first up the Forex Factory and see where we're up to in terms of news events. And I note with interest, of course, that overnight we had a bit of a move on, and that bit of a move on was against the US dollar. One would suspect that had a lot to do with what Jerome Powell was saying overnight, and the market has reacted in kind. To be fair, when I read the statement that he made, I didn't read too much into it, but the market certainly did. I think the inference was that the interest rate hike cycle was about where it was going to stay, and I guess that put doubt into the minds of people regarding next month's. It was nearly this month, but it's still next month's interest rate announcement from the Fed, which is widely, or was widely tipped, I'm not sure if that's still the case, to be another 0.25% increase in interest rates in the US of A. And maybe that's just cast a little shadow over that one. Look, I'm not convinced, to be fair, and I'd be looking for some reversals on those moves overnight, and that's pretty much my focus today at this point in time. So we'll get there in a tick. News, and that's the one I was referring to. Carney also spoke last night. No idea what he said. Haven't read that statement, but certainly I have read the one from Powell. And as I say, I thought it was a little bit more benign than the market has reacted to. We also had, have we had? We should have had 12 a.m. Yes, we should have had the RBNZ, Reserve Bank of New Zealand. Where are we here? Down here. 12 a.m. When's 12 a.m.? It's 1 in the morning. That's ages ago. Hang on, I'll just
buddy.
refresh this time. G'day, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, good, man.
I'm just trying to get the right time of day here. Okay, hang on a minute. That's not right. It's 7:35 in the UK, and that's the one we want to know. I was just talking about Mr. Powell's speech overnight.
Yeah.
And that certainly had a little bit of an effect. And look, to be fair, I didn't read too much into it. I don't think we heard anything that we didn't really already know. But the market seems
I completely agree.
The market seems to think that that has inferred, if you like, that we're at the end of the interest rate hike cycle, and I think we've already knew that, to be fair. And we were looking maybe still for one next month, as they were all predicting, but that would be the end for a little while. So I think that's pretty much what he said, and that's pretty much what I read into it anyway. And well, the market says otherwise. The market's sometimes right, but I think it's wrong this time, and I'm looking for a pullback on those moves, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I read. It's quite difficult, isn't it, to actually read some of these speech, but the last two paragraphs are about the only thing. In conclusion, he says, "I'd like to conclude by putting financial stability and our two new reports in a longer-term context. To paraphrase a famous line, eternal vigilance is the price of financial stability. We will publish these reports regularly as part of our vigilance. Over time, some may be tempted to dismiss the reports entirely, to over-dramatize any concerns they raise, and really, it was more a speech about why he's doing the reports."
Yeah, I think that was pretty much the object of the exercise, wasn't it? That who was he talking to? New York Business Club or something. I don't know who he was talking to, but I think that was the idea, was to explain how the Fed gets to where they get to and why they do it, and that's pretty much it. So why we've seen this, what was a substantial reaction. I'm really a little bit stunned, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And actually, the FTSE 100 was a very, very interesting move as well overnight, because we took off to the upside. I managed to take the profit on the FTSE trade that I was in yesterday. I got in at 70.15, as you know.
Yep.
And it took off to the upside.
Show us,
And what's that, buddy?
show us the trade.
Oh, sure.
Well, guys in the show should have done well then, because that euro yen trade that I called late in the show, that's also done well.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think pretty good week actually all round for us.
Considering it's been a week where you had to be patient, really.
Yes, you did. And now there's the reason I took it off is that there's another opportunity. I actually came out here. There was a little bit more juice in the tank, but since then it has come back, and there's another opportunity to go long here. Whether that's a good idea or not is a bit of a question. Obviously now we're just under this daily pivot. We could be looking at the famous double cross here. I don't know. Would this qualify here
It
above?
would. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Would.
So you want to trade above this bar here?
Yep.
When we look at this let's look at this on a longer term time frame. So we've got this daily chart here. The daily chart, and this was really the channel that we were talking about yesterday, that it was getting through, and it managed to kind of get through that and hold, and it's just kind of given us this this hanging man, and the hanging man's such a difficult bar because it can have negative connotations, and it's usually
a contextual bar, isn't it? You need to have
it really is. It does, because the thing is with a hanging man, the issue with a hanging man is that it's a difficult bar to trade on the very next session, and the reason for that is that a break below the hanging man would suggest bearish price action after the bulls managed to win out somewhat unconvincingly, because there's obviously bearish price action during the day, and then right at the end of the day it kind of pushes forward. So normally speaking, with a hanging man, waiting for the next session to see which way that the bar is going to go is usually the sensible point of call. The only thing with this one that I quite like is the fact that we did actually close above some previous closing prices. We didn't manage to close above this particular range here. But we closed above previous closing prices, and this is really, when we get down to a little bit more detail, this is what we had with the 4-hour chart. So the 4-hour chart is now suggesting that we have an uptrend starting. And this would maybe start moving to the upside, and actually not a bad price to try and get in. So my plan here would be just to probably try and get in one more time to the upside. We have another little. I know you like to steal your phrase, a little trade line here. Not a trend line as yet, but it looks like it's managing to hold. So this is another area that the longs are on, and it'd be interesting to see how the market does actually react very, very early doors this morning, to see whether it can this area can hold and then start to take off again.
So what do you
whether
need
I
to see?
trade? Well, I mean, for me, I've kind of seen what I need to see, in as much that the price is managing to trade above this particular area, but I'd really need to see this on shorter term timeframes. And if I bring this down to the 15, then I've probably seen, as I say, I've probably seen what I need to see. The only thing for me at this particular point is that I've just come into the market a little bit later than I would have liked, because there's only a 10 pip differential here, but those 10 pips make a lot of difference to the way that I trade. So I wouldn't probably want to get in now. I would have got in when it came down here, and the reason that I would have got in here was because again, I would use this RSI's price action, and the RSI looks to me like it's broken through, back tested, and it looks like it's about to take off again. So
it's the same set of circumstances as yesterday's trade, yeah.
Exactly the same. Yeah, it's just on a different time frame, and this is the way that RSI is used for me. I think you have to kind of go down the time frames a little bit to kind of get the best possible entries and the best possible picture. The thing is, it's very similar to the Wave Rider in that respect, where the daily Wave Rider will give you a trigger, and the hourly Wave Rider will have similar parameters. But you're just kind of mining in, and I use the RSI in that way, throughout all the time frames. So, as I say, I've seen really what I need to see, and I think that the price is 70.33. I was looks like around about 15 minutes too late, actually kind of getting involved in this, because this for me is a base. The other reason I believe it would be a base is that it would be just a slight breakout of this point here as well, breaking back just to that point. So I've got the things that I like to see, which is an area of confluence. I've also got an indicator which would suggest that I've got some upside to go. So this is an upside trend for me. Obviously, the other way that this kind of thing can be played is by entering and using your stops down here. That's just not the way that I trade, and it's not. And actually coming back from Bali, I think that was the slight issue for me, was that I was not able to kind of leave my stop loose enough, and this to me would be an example of how you couldn't leave a stop loose enough to handle some fluctuations. And considering it's 7:45, there's the next point of high volatility is around about to start in the market. That the 8 o'clock start is the point of high volatility. So anybody looking to enter at this point with a stop down here may get spiked out before it does start to take off. So that's another reason that we may not actually be too late, because it might push down here first and then start to take off. So we'll wait and see whether that's going to be the case. It's got a chance. It's got a chance. It's always got a chance to come back. I mean, the market has been incredibly tricky. This particular market has been incredibly tricky to trade, and it was only because of the mistake made on Wednesday that yesterday's trade actually ended up working out okay. Because if we look again, my particular price was this point here, and the reason my entry was this point here was because I was looking at this trend line here, and at the time what I had was, on the hourly chart, I had a little shelf along here. I had a confluence area because of the I suppose it would be a trade line rather than a trend line, but it was holding. It moved to the downside, but because of where stops can go at this point, then stops can be nicely under this particular level. So I didn't get taken out on the spike, and it ended up actually being that this inverted head and shoulders area, which if I put this back up here, you'll see a left shoulder, head, right shoulder, was the actual trade in the end. That was the actual signal in the end. So yeah, so that's the reason we can't really put stops under there. I think it would be too much of a dangerous move, and we've seen it before, so we're not going to do that.
Sorry, how are we going for priced in time on the big picture thing?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, because that was the other aspect, wasn't it? We were looking at the fact that the market was going to need to get up to this point, and it's still there. Yeah, and this does just this particular pattern does suggest that we have a chance to get up to this point by really today or tomorrow. And have you and look at the RSI again on the daily chart. This is the one that we were looking at yesterday. This is the interesting one on the daily chart, is that we have the channel and we have the channel there. So the technical patterns do suggest that we are ready to go. This does start to suggest that we might even tuck back in one more time, on the daily. And
there'll be a trend line there as well.
we've got Draghi today. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, maybe. I can't quite remember.
Let's have a look. Yes, 9 o'clock. Draghi.
I've got it.
You've got it at 8 o'clock. Let me just double check. My timing's right. It is 8:33. You are right. Why has that happened? I see why. Hold on one moment. Why am I 846? It should be 746.
So that's right off the bat. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so I should be a.
I'm wishing I was in the market right now and free trading.
What with the euro?
Well, with UK Open and him about to hit the airwaves, absolutely. I'd like to be in here. I'm not. No. Euro yen's still there. That's still a possibility to go for a ride.
So you'd want to be in the upside. Yes, Draghi's out at 8 o'clock, which when we think about that actually could put us in a little bit of a hold for a little while. You know, we have to use the news on top of everything else we know. So the technicals are suggesting that we do have that upside, but that would be enough. A Draghi speech would be enough to keep me out of the market for right now, because even though the technicals are showing for upside, we still have this area up here that we have to see if we can attack. The hanging man is fairly non-conclusive. You know, it doesn't really. This is the area that we kind of needed to close above, which we've just about done. But there's this area here which we haven't closed above, and there's this area here. So that second area is probably just about far enough away to take a trade on, but this does make the whole thing just that little bit more tricky. So can Draghi say anything that that is going to cheer the market, you know, to the upside? And he's had a pretty good habit recently of giving us a decent move. So I think we need to wait for that speech and see what happens. I don't know whether we're gonna we can't watch it, unfortunately, together with the clients, because or with the listeners, because we haven't got the rights to be able to broadcast that.
we know all about that, don't we?
We know all about that, yeah. So we can't do that. But what I can probably do is put it on in the background and just give you a little bit of detail as we go. And you see, that may mean that rather than the market going to the upside when it opens, it might actually just want to drift to the downside. People might be sort of a little bit jaded with what's happened with the price action. Every time it's bought up, sold off, bought, sold a bit, bought, sold down, and then we started a little downtrend. Now we've just started to move back to the upside. So there may well be some further selling on this one before we start to pick back up again. And this has been a difficult cat to skin. I've got to say, the FTSE 100 has been a very, very difficult cat to skin, and I think that the price action on in all this area really kind of shows that, you know, it's very, very difficult to know what's going on here, because we don't
it's coming off tops and bottoms, but it's going very fast when it does. So it's
exactly. Yeah, exactly, and very few trends, actually. You know, the last month specifically has been a really difficult time with the FTSE because of this range that we kind of hit. But you know, even at this point, you know, when we look over here, even at this point, when this low got taken out, we did actually move lower, and when we managed to kind of get above this particular area here, we did move higher. But all those other points, there's a little high there that it took out, but then it came right back down again, but it didn't take out the low significantly. And then again, it broke to the downside, but it didn't really go anywhere. Came back up again, came down, up, and then it started to swing to the downside. So there was a little area here that gave us a little bit of a trend. But again, I mean, this area here, we know we're getting a little bit more into using the box shape. In some respects, the box shape really kind of started on the FTSE at this point here, and this area of price action has been, you know, kind of tricky to.
What chart's that, Nick? By the way, sorry.
This is the 4 hour. This is the 4 hour. You know, I think
there might have been something in there for 30-minute traders like me.
Oh, undoubtedly, you know, there has been opportunities. There certainly has been opportunities on the FTSE. You know, I tend to gravitate with the FTSE, and it's interesting, isn't it, that different instruments can give you different different time frame opportunities. With a FTSE 100, the time frame that tends to kind of churn out the cleanest opportunities, or maybe not the cleanest. The cleanest are obviously going to be the longer term time frames, but the cleanest versus the highest volume of opportunities tends to come with the FTSE on the hourly. And if I bring the hourly in, then you'll kind of start to see that the picture's not too bad. You know, even looking at this box area, when we if we come over here, if we consider this to be an area of support, it breaks down the area of support and it comes back right to that area of support before moving to the downside. This becomes an area of resistance. It breaks through the areas of resistance, comes back almost to that point, and then moves to the upside. So the not so much there. There's another one here, area of support. It breaks down, it moves down. This one didn't really happen, but there's an area of resistance there, and that's really what's been going on. It's been holding the area of resistance. Boom, boom. Sorry, a change of polarity. So area of now of support. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Kind of take off, and then that's what we have going on again. So. This will be interesting now. As I say, that this is now kind of looking to move to the upside, and the technicals are working out, aren't they? So far, you know that the buyers are coming in here, and it's just whether they can push it higher. But I've still got my doubts on the foot. This is the problem that I had yesterday, and this is the problem I still have. The technical patterns show me that that we're going to this point here. But the fundamentals don't really clear their head until the G20 to a degree. And how did oil trade is another question. I mean, look at oil. It went down again. I mean, it's, you know,
rallying went down.
Yeah. So I mean, I do find it fascinating what's happened overnight. So did it rally into that data? What happened?
No, it rallied early and then it sold into the data, or not so much data, but it was the speech. And then it failed to get through the daily pivot.
So oil's down. Copper just forming a flag here by the looks of things. Not yeah, there's a flag on the 4 hour. Now there's been a little bit of I hear people naming these flags incorrectly, and just to kind of put a flag into context here, a flag should only have 3 to 5, you know, you might be able to push a little bit beyond that, periods within an array. You know, otherwise it becomes a range. You know, I hear people calling these areas here a flag, but a flag has to be a very, very short period before it takes off again. And that's just to give it some context. But copper's just forming this flag here, and copper is a really good barometer for markets. So you know, copper as a barometer looks like it may well move again to the upside. And this is the reason it's a good barometer for the upside. If we compare what's been happening with copper, then we have. Let's just talk about this area here on the 4 hour chart. So that the 2nd of November, it starts to move to the downside, and then it starts to move back to the upside around about the 15th, and then we start to move back to the downside on the 23rd, and then we just started to rally on the 27th. So if we have a look at it, 2nd, 14th, 23rd, and 27th, bring back the FTSE 100. And on the 4 hour, it's not so clean, but the second has started to copper was rallying. This is the FTSE 100 sort of going into the second. It's managing to hold. Started to come down on the 14th. The copper on the 12th, the FTSE 100 is coming to the downside. So that's kind of in correlation as well. And then on the 27th, it started to move to the upside. Same sort of thing with the FTSE. So, you know, it's not a hard and fast rule, but they tend to move in similar directions. When you start to see copper moving in a specific direction, then you need to be aware of how that can react with markets, because it does tend to be a barometer of strength because of its building connotations. So yeah, copper's looking like a bullish pattern right now. But yeah, as I say, Matt, I'm just a little bit concerned with these things still hanging over our heads, and
They're not
and
going away, are they? They're just there, and I don't know. I'm so over Brexit, and I'm sure
oh, do you know, I'm not
other
even talking
places
about
in the world.
Brexit now. I'm actually talking about the trade wars,
Yeah,
well, maybe not the OPEC thing. In actual fact, I'm pretty much exclusively talking about trade wars. The Brexit thing is an aspect, but the the FTSE 100 will react on things like Brexit, but it's much more likely to be um, um, uh, uh, twitchy on things like trade wars, because that really is the important part of people's top line. If they can't buy and sell goods abroad, and global markets start to halt, then the FTSE 100 will be one of the casualties of that, as will the Chinese market, which we haven't checked actually so far this morning, have we? This is the
currencies first.
Oh, mate, sorry, mate. Yeah, you go ahead, because you haven't got long. You've got 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's okay. As we said, there's no way I'll be trading the Open anyway,
Okay.
given that Draghi's speaking at the Open. So let's have
Yeah.
a look and see. Yesterday, this was the trade that you guys would have taken.
I'll tell you what, you do that. I'm just going to go and get my other device so I can listen to the news.
Go for it. Which was the double cross that we spoke about, but it was a genuine slingshot trade anyway, with a nice little trade line coming through here, and same every single time. When you get, why can't I grab that? There you go. Right. When you get this sort of scenario, there's plenty of warning that's going to take place as well. We just kept peeling off the monthly pivot, but we kept approaching the trade line, pulling back off it, approaching the trade line, pulling back off it, and eventually it did set up as a double cross as well. The double cross is the decisive cross of the daily pivot, and one going the other way, and we place an order here. And we suggested that you take TP1 before the pivot, which was the right thing to do. And now you're hoping for a bounce off both of those pivots to continue this on to target, which is right about here. So hopefully you're in that one. Look, if you're not, look, it's the wrong time of the cycle. It's the wrong part of this cycle, and you have missed the entry. But there is definitely a case that this can break to the high side. And if I put this little line through here, you could use either that one or that one. It's the same thing. You've had a break not only of the trend line or trade line in this case, but you've had a retest of both the monthly pivot and the daily pivot as well. That's a massive place to trade from. It's a huge confluence area. Throw in this level, which is the monthly pivot basically, that has just been hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered.
Right.
There's one of two things going to happen here. And the first thing that I would be looking for is for this level to break and attempt to hit the highs again. And that's the end of that trade, of course. That's the target. But there is another possibility. And if price were to get back underneath here and retest that confluence from from below, that reverses polarity instantly, for me anyway. And it says again that all of these false breaks have just got another mate. So that then turns into another false break, right? And we see price drive down again. So we need to be vigilant of that. If this does come back here, we can't lose on the trade. It doesn't really matter to us really what happens now, except that we'd like to get the profit, of course. But if this reverses and comes underneath this area and retests it from below, you'll see me get into this short very, very quickly, I can assure you, because this area right here is an awesome place to trade from. You've just got to get the right signal as to which way it's going. So if you're not in, I would suggest that there is an entry above this bar, but if price gets below here, watch for the retest and get in short underneath there. So that's my count, and that's what I'm looking for today. I'm looking for that little bit of a reversal. I'm looking for a reversal on just about everything, to be fair, given what we saw and my thoughts on what we saw overnight. This is the reaction to Powell's speech, and it's quite sustained, no question, and to me emotive, but it went straight to resistance and stopped, as you would expect, so perfectly technical. And now we've had a little rally throughout the day, throughout the ASA session. We've pulled back to this level, which is the weekly pivot, and we're now having another crack at putting in new highs. Look, if this goes, two things. One, I'll be surprised, and two, I'll be disappointed, because I really wanted to trade this short. I'm absolutely keen to trade this short, not long term, but I think there's a beautiful little trade down here to the daily pivot. And if that can set up for me, happy days. That'll be my trade of the day on any one of these crosses against the dollar, frankly. I'll be using that line. I've got a nice little confluence here. Maybe we're going to get a bit of an issue here, and that will be definitely a profit area. Got to take profit here for two reasons. One, it is a support level, natural support level, and two, it may well want to form a neckline and pull back here and form a right shoulder as well. So that's the one thing that really is in the way here. But I'll be absolutely keen to trade this short if it does set up. Yes, it can go, and it can go forever, but it'll certainly go without me, that's for sure. Exactly the same could be said on the pound, and if I'm absolutely frank with myself, I'm probably keener to actually get short the pound than I am anything else. That could happen in a number of ways, but again, we're at a strong resistance level. And as I pointed out yesterday and the day before, and probably even the day before that, this thing, pound US dollar, keeps doing what you expect it to do. It hits resistance, puts in false breaks, or just cannot get through it, cannot get through it, cannot get through it, and it falls away. Got through it here, false break, looks like it wants to get through it again. There's absolutely no reason for me to think that anything has changed to stop this thing going short. And for all of those reasons, I'm looking for a short here for sure. And I just hope I get the opportunity to trade it. And again, just like the euro, if I'm wrong and price goes to heaven, then so be it. It'll probably go without me, because I really just haven't got longs in my vernacular at the moment. It's not happening. The Aussie, same thing, exactly the same thing. I'm actually a little bit bullish this cross, but I don't want to buy here. I want to buy down here or down here. So that's pretty much off the radar for me as well. The longs, that is, but certainly I'll be looking for a reversal on that that fundamental gut reaction to Powell's speech, which I think was benign. I really do. And EuroCAD, I'm still waiting for this lower high. Probably running out of time here, because this will become a higher high based on this area anyway. So I'd like to see that now. I don't like this candle. I have to say that. And the reason I don't like this candle is not because of the candle itself, although it's not fun being a spinning top at the moment. It's this candle here. I hate trading a bar after an indecisive candle unless it's in the opposite direction to momentum. So I wouldn't be looking to trade that in this direction. And I can't trade long here. So there's no long, no short right now. What I need to see is a better bar. I need to see a decisive bar preceding the reversal bar. And unless that happens, I won't be trading it. Of course, that's the 4-hour chart. If we dig a little bit deeper, we can see that we've put in another new high, but the good news is we've also put in a bearish engulfing bar. So if I were now to get just a little gentle rally back to here, give me a lower high, maybe match this shoulder, turns into a head and shoulders, trade it short to the daily pivot. I think there's some awesome opportunities here today. They've just got to set up. Euro yen we've spoken about. Aussie yen, that's got to come back into the range for me. Euro Aussie Yeah, look, again, this one's a little bit tricky because it's potentially going to put in a higher low here. But what it hasn't done, it hasn't given me a reversal bar. It's given me a double bottom, so I'd be willing to look at it. But I really like to see a backup. I'd like to see a bullish engulfing bar here to match the double bottom. That would have been good. Maybe we get it off another test of this low, and maybe that's what I'm looking for. So that's on hold as well. Pound yen, look, very keen to get short this is also. What I'd like to see now, Angus is in, is his price just again gently get back to this area here, the daily pivot and the monthly pivot, and give me the lower high that I'm looking for. Then I can look to trade it short. It's a little bit early days at the moment. Very tempting to actually trade this short off this bar here, but had it tested the daily pivot and the monthly pivot, and being a nice bullish bar, I would have traded that short already. But it's not just ready for me now. I want to see that gentle rally back to here, give me the lower high, and away we go. Mate, everything I'm looking at is absolutely the same, I think. I don't think I've described anything that's different. And if one sets up, they're probably all going to set up at the same time, and that's going to be a bit of a bugger, but we'll see. We'll see how we go.
Yeah. I think you're probably in a similar situation to me. We've got pretty much no movement on the FTSE 100 so far. And I've just been listening a little bit to I can't find anything on Draghi. Interestingly, I don't know whether we've missed something there, but or maybe the speech isn't as key as was initially thought. But what's coming out about Powell is that he's pretty much saying exactly what you just said about it not really being that significant. I don't really know even what he said, really. I mean, he was a little bit more dovish, but all he really said is that rates could be near normalization, and that was it. And I'm looking at the FTSE thinking, you know what, this could be actually a shorting opportunity. If this market rallies a bit, I'll be actually quite interested to see if I can sell it off, because I don't hear anything which would suggest that we're actually going through a level here.
Same. Well, you know.
And this is the tricky thing. You know, the FTSE 100 has just been full of false breaks, and I think we might just have had another one. Just as you were saying, which is interesting, of what you were saying about when they go, they all go. It seems to me like we have similar things going on with the FTSE as we do with some of the currencies that you're looking at, in as much that the FTSE 100. Oh, sorry, sure, yeah. We'll get back to that as well. Yeah. So why haven't I got?
It's nice to hear that Jerome Powell's listening to our show, mate.
Absolutely. But look what's happened to him. I mean, we had the potential for a double cross. This would have got us in, right? If we put our entry above this point.
It would have, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, it's just not of interest to me. I'd be much more interested to see if this rallies. I'd like to set it off here, because I don't have the reasoning that would suggest to me that we are moving higher. And I've had this issue with the FTSE really, you know, for a long time. That the market is kind of showing one thing, but the price action is kind of showing one thing, but the sentiment out there doesn't really give us the opportunity to buy into this with too much confidence. I mean, you know, especially at a level like this. Yes, I like the fact that we've got this break, but when I think about what makes a trend, I like to see you know, something really solid happening in the market. And even this, you know, even this as a trend line is or a trade line, if you like, as a place to try and get in. The fact that we are actually sloping down when we're trying to get back up again is a little bit concerning, I have to say. I wouldn't mind doing a quick fib on this as well. Let's just have a look at some of these. So where are we now? 29th, so 28th. Let's just mark this off on the fibs and see what the fibs are suggesting. I haven't done this for a little while, and I think I've probably neglected it a little bit. So effectively yesterday's range is that point to that point. It was an upside day, so this is what we got. There we go. Yeah, so the fibs, this area, this 33 area is what I was talking about, and this the fibs are suggesting that this is an area to be buying in at now. The 70-30, this would be the price to be buying in at, and I'd be quite happy. I'd be all over this if I had confidence that actually Jerome Powell had said something which would suggest that that the market could actually start to take off, but you know, this is very similar to what when we were discussing what was going on with the pound,
Yep.
and we were saying that you know, because the pound didn't take off after Theresa May managed to get the Brexit deal, the most obvious next potential move was actually downside rather than upside,
Yeah,
and
something
I
else is
feel.
going on.
Yeah, I feel kind of similar with the FTSE. I feel like with the FTSE 100, Powell didn't say anything significant enough to give us a decent move to the upside, and because of that, I wonder whether the G20, you know, now starts to take front and center. You know, what's going to drive this market, and I just don't have I don't have anything, and I could be wrong. Obviously, maybe I'm completely missing the point, but I don't.
And isn't that right? You think, hang on a minute, there's something that's just not right here. Am I
Yeah,
missing the point? But you know, it's precisely that moment that you need to sit back and say, no, bugger this, I'm going to back myself, because
yeah,
I believe what I'm seeing and hearing here, and
yeah.
I'm going back to exactly where we were before Jerome Powell opened his mouth.
Yeah, yeah, and this is the thing. I think that well, I mean, this bar in itself. You know, I always say that the first 15 minutes is often a really good bar for giving us a picture on the FTSE 100 how the day's going to go. Anybody that has put in a buy order here has just got taken out to the
Yeah.
downside. So let's have a look how this bar ends up. But if this bar ends up kind of still stuck in this range, that really tells us everything we need to know about today's price action, to my mind. In as much that it's probably not going to be too much of an easy market to trade. And I think due to that, it's just kind of cooled my interest in it. You know, I'm just not there with it, and I don't really want to get caught into something that um yeah. So if I don't want to really I don't want to get caught into something that could actually end up doing this pretty much all day. But I would trade this down from here. You know, but because my stance really fundamental on the fundamental aspect is to the downside.
Yeah, you're
It
looking
has
for
managed to.
shorts.
Yeah, I think I would be. I think I would be looking for shorts. I have very little confidence in the long, just from a confusing at best Gerald Powell's speech. You know, or just listening into what he said, it didn't seem to me like there was much meat on the bones there.
No, that's what I said from the outset. I read it and I kind of reread it, because I read it after I saw the market move, of course. And I thought, well, hang on. Did something else happen last night that I'm
Yeah,
not aware of? Because
yeah,
I just don't understand why the market has reacted that way. And, you know, unlike you, who is now uncertain, I've got certainty around this. And my certainty is that we're going to retrace here. We're going to pull back those gains, if you like.
agreed, agreed. And look at the bar. That's a hideous first 15-minute bar, isn't it?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know,
And
how do you make a decision off the back of that? And that as I say, that tells me what I need to know about this market, and that's that there's indecision. And for that very reason, that's another reason that I would trade up here. You know, if there's indecision in the market, I'd love to get an extreme. If I can get an extreme, that would suggest to me that I'm going to fall again. And if I'm wrong, then I should have enough time to get out. So I'm quite interested to see if I can get a trade on up here at 70, let's call it, somewhere around about there. I'd like to get a trade onto the downside. So there may well be a trade here, but it's not going to be at this price.
okay, so what do we do? I might go through a few scenarios, mate, as to what I will be looking for, and if they occur, how are we going to trade it?
Yeah. Okay.
Or have you got more to go?
No, I've got no more to go, mate. Not at this stage. No. I mean, I'll certainly. I'd like to look through some of the charts with you actually, and see if there is any other opportunities. If we're going to, because I'm getting a little bit more familiar now with the euro, euro dollar. So if you have anything on that, obviously the pound I can plump in with. But
let's start there, shall we? Let's start with the euro. Okay. Obviously, we're putting in new highs, so the market's carrying on with this big reaction to what Powell has said. Well, we can only assume that's why the market reacted, because there's no other reason that's being disclosed. What does that mean at the end of the day is where I hang my hat, right? What exactly are we looking at? And if I go to the daily chart, I'm seeing lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Potential high. Well, it is a higher. It's going to be a higher than this one now. There's no doubt about that. What has it done? It's broken through resistance. What have we got left in terms of resistance is the next question that I raise. Broken through that. There's a confluence here it's broken through. So it's got the monthly pivot left to go. How strong is the monthly pivot? Let's go back to the weekly chart and have a good look at that. Somebody wants me. Okay, so we've got lower low, lower high, lower low, equal high, lower low, and yet to have a lower high on the weekly chart. But look where we are. We're still banging our heads against the monthly pivot here and we can't get through it. So I've still got to be thinking short here. And the daily chart is telling me, hang on a second, let's get it right. There we go. That the strongest level here is the monthly pivot, because bang, 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 false break, bang, false break, bang, bang, off it, can't get through it. So I'm hoping that we can actually get to the monthly pivot, which will give us a real opportunity, in my opinion, to get a fantastic price to trade this short. So we're not far away from it. And the only thing I need to see really is a test of that and the reversal bar, and I'm in. I don't think I'd need anything else. That would do me. There's an untested daily pivot below us. We know that that's a very strong indicator, if you like. It's certainly a probability factor. So, yeah, get up there. Get up there as quick as you can, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, we've broken resistance. There's no doubt about it. But get up there and give me a reversal bar, and I'm happy to go in. That's what I'll be looking for on the euro. Thoughts?
So to actually get up to that, you're looking at.
I can't trade it. I can't trade it to there. No way.
So the monthly pivot. Yeah. Do you know what what I looked? Yeah.
And mind you, it's not compulsory. It's not compulsory to go to the monthly pivot. If we break support at all,
yeah,
I'm in. You know, same thing applies, because I think this is. I shouldn't call it bullshit, but I will. I think this is a wrong. This is an anomaly. I can never say those two words together. So I'm still of the opinion that we've got to get rid of at least half of this. At least half.
Yeah.
So we've got to come down to here. It's just something that I can't see not happening. So any way I can find into here is exactly what I'm looking to do. This line here helps me immensely. I don't need to see the monthly pivot. It would be cool if we did, because it would be a very, very nice place to find resistance and therefore look for a short. But I'm happy to trade here. All we need to do is get underneath this level, get underneath the weekly pivot, and retest it from below. Bang, I'm in. Definitely in.
Yeah.
So just keep your eye out for that. If we hit hit the monthly pivot, better still. I just need to see a reversal bar then, and I'd look to trade it. That's it for me. Yeah, it's so set in stone what I need to do today on the euro. It's not funny. If it goes through the monthly pivot and goes to 120, so be it. There's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is the thing with it, isn't it? So if we can get up to that monthly pivot, when we consider the Powell comments not being maybe as significant as
the market suggesting,
as the market's suggesting, then actually the monthly pivot would be a pretty good area to try and look for a selling opportunity. Yeah, and you know, the other thing I quite like about this is the explosive move. Let me show you my chart here. So I've got you know, obviously this explosive move to the upside, you know, you can see that anyway, but it's the RSI that really interests me up here, because this this area here, when we get beyond have you got my chart?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell. I don't know if anyone else can.
Yeah, they should be able to. This area here, when we get beyond the 70% line, starts to become a very dangerous area to take trades, because this is effectively that the indicator becomes embedded. You know, the indicator is meant to just flash between the 2 points here between 70 and 30 to give us overbought, oversold territory. Obviously, we're overbought here. But we're also embedded, and being embedded puts the price structure in danger of a swift move back to the downside. I have to, you know, in fact, I'll come to that in a moment. But let's have a look at it. What I mean by that. This area down here is embedded, and the move to the upside was fairly swift. You know, when it did actually start to take off and go, it really went. Let's see if we can find another one. And you can see it doesn't remain embedded for very long, and that's why this is very significant. Again, down here it's embedded, and then we got a really a proper sweeping move. So the embedded area is even more significant than an oversold or overbought condition. Actually, this one didn't. This one did well. I mean, it did move out of the embedded scenario, but it didn't actually take off. Let's see if we got any others. That one, to a degree, it didn't. It did cause a little bit of a price spike. This is probably more overbought than embedded, but that did, you know, when it did actually touch into the extreme level, it did waterfall down fairly fast. So the point is that that these areas don't really kind of stay in these areas for very long. It's very it's much less likely for the any market that is in these areas to continue its move to the upside unabated. You know, it's much more likely to have some sort of slowdown, or even worse, some sort of waterfall back to the downside. So I agree with you. You know, and that in itself would suggest to me that there are probably orders that are sat right here, and there's probably a little grab right down to the weekly pivot again, probably early doors. And as I say, you know, we don't really have any reason to be buying the euro against the dollar, except for those comments. Was that the explosive move that we saw wholesale? It was, wasn't it? So this is Powell. Well, this is the I suppose this is the run up to what he may say, and this is what's happened with that. But
I haven't had a look at the timing, but I just put that down to the speech itself. Whether it's pre and post, I don't know.
Let's just have a look at these this line along here.
I'll get the time. That happened at chart time 2300, which I think would be 2100. The news happened at Wednesday. The times don't line up. 5 p.m, whatever that means. That would be 1900 by the charts, I would have thought. I can never line them up. So I don't know, mate. Don't know. Can you line those times up? I don't know.
Which time? Sorry, mate. I was just focusing on the other levels here. Which I wasn't looking at your chart.
5 p.m. GMT yesterday.
Yeah.
So 1700 GMT yesterday.
Yeah.
Equals what in Australian chart times?
Seven. It'd be 7 o'clock because
Okay, so
it's
that's
yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
actual reaction.
Oh, okay. All right. So that was the reaction, and then that's taken us forward as well. So we have got price points on the. We've got price points on the daily at 11414, and the weekly pivot, sorry, the monthly pivot is at 11415. Yeah, 11415. Oh, sorry, 11415. Yeah, 11415. Yeah, this weekly pivot is an obvious area for me. I mean, I think this is a trade straight off the bat, mate. When I look at it, I see that we have this on the 4-hour, which is pretty much the same price as this here.
Same level. Yep.
Same level. We have, let's just check a fib as well, which I think could be quite interesting. 28th. So it's there to there. That's that's the high up there. So that is just about where the weekly pivot is. So there'd be a sell here with profit taken there probably. I want to check the weekly as well. The weekly fib. So that would be 20. Let me just put that there. 23rd. So that's to that point there. From there. Is that right? Yeah, so it's there to there. This to, oops. That point to that point. 61% retracement. So there's a lot. I think there's a lot here. 1.15-ish. There is a lot in that that particular area. So that would suggest to me that that is a definite sell zone if we can get that price. If that price comes back up again, I think we should be all over it. I'd be very reticent to wait for too much of a signal. I mean, what a great place to get a double cross.
Yeah, sure. Just got to set. That's all. Pound yen's already gone. That little break and almost retest of the pivots has done exactly as we anticipated that it might. But I'm still waiting for that to give me a lower high before I get into that. And that's probably going to be the case with these things. They're going to move pretty fast, and if you miss, which is quite likely, you're going to have to take a worse price. But I think taking the worst price is not going to be the worst option here, because I absolutely got a very, very strong feeling that these are going to reverse yesterday's reactions.
Yeah, that was the pound was also. God, there's been so many false moves here. Just bringing that pound yen back. The pound also yesterday was just above this line, wasn't it? I don't know if you were looking at that yesterday, but again, it's another false break.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
You were looking at that, so there's another false break there with the pound. I mean, we know that the pound is a bit of a dog anyway right now, and it will be right up until the second week in December. But
well, I was saying it even today. It's another false break of the weekly pivot. It just keeps happening. It's not something that we haven't seen in the last month more. It just keeps doing it.
Yeah.
And, if we're not prepared for that, then something's really wrong. We need to recognise it and try and take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so many questions out there, aren't there? Too many questions over answers right now.
Yeah, look, really, For me, there are a lot of answers also, and
Yeah.
Things like yesterday just make it a whole lot easier, I reckon, because there's just only one thing to do. There's nothing else to do. It's a matter of, okay, this is either going to set up or I'm not going to trade today. It's
Yeah.
that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's and it looks like it's going to be one of those, doesn't it? Just the FTSE is just managing to kind of like edge itself higher here, so I may get an entry at some point, but yeah, there's certainly some waiting to be done, isn't there?
Yep, let me have a look at the new candles, mate. There's new 30-minute
Yep.
candles.
Sounds good.
We'll have a wrap around the grounds and see what happens. Okay, Euro first. This is this is all very interesting, but nothing's happening. Of course, we're trying to break through. We're trying to get the highs. We've actually put in new highs, but the market's not too happy to go through there, is it? You can see that. And as I said before, if we get to the monthly pivot happy days, there'll be a great place to find a trade, but it's not compulsory. I'm happy to use this confluence area as my short entry, and if we get that, then happy days again. The one thing, as I said before, that will be an issue is that level right there, and you don't want to be trading into that level without money in the bank. So yes, take the setup, but make sure you're taking profit before there as well, which is, oh, I can't believe it. What's my favorite level on the euro around here? 113.60. That's exactly where that is. Bang on 113.60. No surprise there, I suppose. So don't trade through that without profit, that's for sure. And if you get the opportunity, go for it. Cable has started to give us an indication that it's ready to go. I wouldn't want to be jumping in short right now because we're at this level here. Very, very similar to what I've just described on the euro. It's been resistance. It is now support. So you've got to respect that and allow it to maybe even put in a right shoulder, but certainly put in a lower high here. Look for that lower high. Too hard to trade this short right now. If it goes, it goes. But a lower high here, around about the weekly pivot, or even up here, would be a-okay for me. That's where I look for the short. Aussie. Look, I don't know why I'm actually changing charts. They're all exactly the same. Everything is exactly the same against the US dollar. We're looking for shorts here and only shorts. And this one's tough until we get something like bearish engulfing bar and again a lower high, then we can trade it, or we need a trade line going through here, something off which we can launch an attack. But at this point in time, it's guesswork, and we don't want to be guessing. We want to be sure. As I said, this could just go bang straight to the daily pivot, and if that happens, that's fine. The market has shown its intention. Then what will happen is people will take profit here, and the market will rally back to a point of resistance and then put in a lower high for us. That's when we want to take the short. After that big move, if it does move like that, that's what we want. We want the second opportunity. If we miss it, the first one doesn't really matter because we will get another chance, and that's what I'll be looking for. EuroCAD, look, it's exactly. I've been waiting for this trade all week, mate. All week I've been waiting for this trade, and it's still taunting me. But I seriously won't go to bed until this sets up. And if it doesn't, then okay, we've got new highs. Then I'll go to bed with a grumpy mood, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. But I've been waiting all week for it to set up, and if it does, I'll be looking to trade this short again. Same thing. Euro yen off the 30-minute chart. Look, there's no surprise that this is going to hang around here. We've got the monthly pivot sitting here. We've got the daily pivot sitting here. We've got this line here. What's that represent? Yep, that's pretty much the same trade line that we traded yesterday. Well, it actually isn't the same trade line. It's a daily chart. We were trading long on the 4-hour chart, which was the trade line going through here, and we traded this bar. So This is still showing promise to get to target. There's no question about that. But again, this has got another side to it. And the other side to it is if we get back underneath this line here and the pivots and there's a retest, oh my goodness, that's probably the trade of the week if that were to set up short euro yen. Nothing's changed here. Oh, actually, there is a big difference here. Aussie yen has come back and tested the daily pivot and bounced off it. Tradability wise is interesting, very interesting. I don't see a reversal situation until we get up to here and put in a double top. So this would be my least favorite of all these crosses at the moment, because we've got to put in I don't want a lower high here. I want an equal high, and I want a double top. So that's probably the last thing I'm looking to trade. Euro Aussie, yeah, look, potential here to put in a higher low, but really off what? Again, same as Aussie yen. I've got nothing to tell me this is about to reverse. I've got no double top. No double bottom. I've got no bullish engulfing bar. I've got nothing here to suggest this can go long. So I've got to hit the bottom here again before we think to trade that. Pound yen is completely different because we are back inside the range that we've been trading in. Sadly, this didn't test the pivots. Otherwise, as I said before, I would already be in this short and free trading at this point. But a lower high here, of course, does get me interested. So, yep, wait for that on any time frame is fine. And that's pretty much where I'm at. So really no changes, mate, with the 30-minute charts, except that we've the pound has slipped, and that's fine. If we get a lower high on the pound crosses, then we're in Mike Flynn.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just here with the news in the background. Interesting about Jerome Powell. Still, I'm not really able to get too much detail out of that one. And also interesting with Mark Carney. Mark Carney did the bank stress testing for the UK. And it worked out really well. You know, he's kind of done the stress test, and he believes that the banks are have been responsible and passed all the testing sufficiently enough to be able to survive if we had a really extreme Brexit. But he did paint a very, very dire picture for a crash out of the EU, suggesting that we could lose 11% of our growth. And maybe a third of the economy. And he said that a recession could be worse than the recession after World War II. So it doesn't really paint a too rosy a picture for a no deal Brexit.
No, it doesn't.
Which is going to be
that's probably why we're seeing the pound selling at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Mark Carney will have the certainly have the ability to move those markets for sure. And the other thing was, what was the other thing? Oh yes, just Trump and Xi Jinping. So you know, it does. No, I think they're due to meet at the summit.
Okay. I thought it was this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Trump has kind of come out and said that he will make decisions when he's in the room. You know, that's the time that he's going to be interested in talking about deals after he sat down with Xi Jinping.
Society,
yeah, I mean, you know, it doesn't really bode well, does it? I think they're playing. He's definitely playing hardball.
He does it well. He certainly does it well. He's got to meet with Pooty too, hasn't he, over the G20? I believe.
I thought that was cancelled.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I thought it was.
There was talk of it, but I don't know if it was.
Maybe I've got that wrong, but I was under the impression, anyway.
Could well be. Could well be. I don't know if that's going to move the markets too much anyway, but certainly the Xi Jinping meeting can have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Oil, could that maybe have an effect?
Well, of course it could.
Oh my goodness, you've seen oil?
Yeah,
it's coming another leg down.
Yeah. The question with oil, of course, is how low can it go? And it starts when it gets into the 40s. It gets down to levels where it's not cost effective to produce it.
Yeah, isn't it something like $45 a barrel? I thought it
Yeah, I
was
think so.
around
It's in the
that price.
40s. It's in the 40s. I know that, but where that is exactly, I really don't know.
Well, we are currently at 49.50. So it's really struggling. It's amazing, really, what's happened with oil, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been an oil fall, hasn't it? Pardon
Yeah,
the pun. Look,
yeah,
you don't see charts like that too often. That's just
yeah,
massive, absolutely
yeah,
massive.
yeah. I mean, just looking at this on a looking at this one on the monthly, and we discussed this. We discussed this oil
Yeah, on Tuesday.
on
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Always the hourly, but the monthly is the one that I find the most interesting. Look at that. I mean, it wasn't even just this month. The prior month was bad. But looking
I'm
historically,
going to say,
oil
look
does
back
tend
there.
to have, when the phrase "go upstairs and come down elevators" was first said. I wonder whether they were specifically talking about oil, because you don't see this, do you? I mean, when oil tanks, my goodness, does it come down?
It goes, doesn't it? Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, right back to 2008, 2014, 2018. It's just an
Well, of course,
astonishing
in
move.
2015, we went to what, $24 or something. Wow.
2015, we went to, yeah. It looks like we did come down to $24. Interestingly,
Actually,
yeah, 25. Yeah,
I owe the boss I think a magnum of champagne or something on that, because I think halfway through 2015 we had a little wager. Where's oil going to be by Christmas?
yeah,
And I said $60 or something, and I think he said 40 or whatever the case may be, and it got
yeah,
down, yeah, 25. What?
yeah,
How does that happen?
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I suppose in a world where we move away from fossil fuels, oil will be affected. But I'm surprised it's kind of. I would be surprised, I should say, that I would be surprised the effect we see with that is happening just yet.
Yeah,
Um,
look, there's a lot of motor cars out there, a
yeah,
lot of things that are still pumping over with oil. There's no doubt about that, and that's
yeah,
going to be the case for years to come. But
yes, yes.
yeah, look, what's causing this? What was the conversation? What was the result of the conversation? Did we actually come to a conclusion? Apart from
What was
we were looking
what
for
was
a bottom.
causing the oil slump?
Yeah,
I don't think we did. I don't think we did. I think we were
I mean it's general
that.
oversupply that does that, but this is more than that.
It certainly seems that way. Let me just see what this is as well. It looks like we're just about to hit a target here.
Is that WTI?
That's WTI, and that suggests 46-ish. Yeah, around about the 46 level. It looks to me like oil could come to.
Yeah, okay, I'm looking at that same line. Okay, so my Euro CAD scenario. That's why that's rallying still, in my opinion.
Yes.
Maybe my short's not going to set up. Maybe.
Which for EuroCAD?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's have a look. I'm just trying to see whether even the pound is doing okay. It's not actually. The pound isn't doing that well against the CAD.
Wow, look at the pound. Sterling just going nuts.
It's awful, isn't it?
Wow, why wasn't I in
I
this?
don't know.
Oh dear.
Which one are you looking at? Which pound?
Oh, pound yen.
Pound yen.
Well, I was looking to trade it earlier with a retest of the daily and monthly pivot, but it just didn't quite make it.
Yeah.
And now it's just Gornsky. Wow.
Yeah, that has, isn't it?
That would have been a 15 pip risk. Currently at 3-1. Wow.
Oh. Oh.
And that's got no intention of stopping anytime soon, I can tell you.
It doesn't appear that way, does it? Let me just have a look at this line along here. Well, that line suggests we're on top of something. Let's just check. Yeah, and the weekly pivot. I think weekly pivot bounce, mate.
I think it'll bounce too hard. I think it's gone.
Yeah. Well, whether I don't know whether it'll bounce that hard. You're absolutely right, but there is enough down here to suggest that that would be an area of support at least.
That's pound yen you're talking about. Yeah.
That's the pound yen, yeah.
We'll look at sterling. Sterling's got well, there's a setup there too, but I couldn't trade it in a month of Sundays. It's just too hard. I got 126, almost a fait accompli from here, in my opinion.
Oh, really? Okay.
And yet again, you know, when we look back at this, we're going to say the weekly pivot did it again, and it did. You know, I've been banging on about this all bloody week.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me.
And it finally gets there.
And then, look, it's not the way I trade, but gee, I'm starting to come around that way. I've got to tell you, I don't normally trade reversal bars, but I'm starting to get the idea that if you've got an opinion, if you've got a technical level, a reversal bar is as good as anything to trade.
I completely agree. I completely agree, and I think it's more about opinion than anything else. I think it's got to be, you know, as you said earlier, you've got to back yourself because a revert. I mean, what would the you're looking at the dollar on the 30, right?
You're talking about cable?
Yes.
Yep.
On the 30-minute chart. Sorry, show me the bar that you would have taken that.
No, it was on the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour.
Oh, the 4-hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This bar here. This is the one.
Yep, I see it. Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely gold. You know, I've been looking at trading that bar for a long time now. I traded on pound yen. I traded on cable. It's very good on cable, and I've made some good money on it in the right context. Why I haven't traded that is
which I find really interesting, actually, mate, because you're absolutely right. Look at how that pound has been reacting to the weekly pivot this whole month.
All the time. And, you know, I've been pointing it out all week, haven't I?
You have indeed.
Saying bang, 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 trade it. Bang, 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 trade it. I'm look, at the end of the day, what I'll take away from this is I need to add this to my strategy. I need to add a reversal bar to my strategy. And I have done that in certain contexts, but here, this is just wow. You've just got to trade that, really.
Yeah.
Because you know how I trade, and I trade. It's cause and effect how I trade. It's not on a bar normally. And if this was red, if this body was red, there's no way I would have traded that. Which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
The reason I would like that trade is because it is green. Because why? If I'm wrong, then momentum will continue because we've had a close above the weekly pivot.
Yeah.
If momentum continues, guess what?
You don't get taken in.
I don't get taken in. But if I'm right, I get the lot.
Yeah.
So I've just got to add that to my strategy. Simple as that.
And what about looking at that? Let's look at the previous what about the previous weekly pivots area where it's
here that's tougher. That's really tougher.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to get into that because it hasn't. There's two things I look for, right? One is the break and retest, which didn't happen. So there was the break, but there was no retest. There was a way to trade that. Did we trade that? I can't remember if we traded that or not. And the way to trade it was this way. No, couldn't. Yeah, maybe could have.
May have a trade in the FTSE, mate. May have a trade in the FTSE.
Let's have a look at it, mate.
Let's see what we got. Yeah, you see what's happening here? Just starting to move into positive territory. I want it around here. So around about the 70 level is the area that I'm really interested in. So let's just see if it can get up there to start with.
This again is the same bloody thing as yesterday, because what happened? We got the double cross, they cleared out the stops, and away they went.
Sorry, mate. Let's have a look at your chart again.
Yours. I'm talking about the FTSE.
Oh, sorry, mate. You've got to say it again.
The double cross set up. They took out the stops.
Yeah.
And now they're gone.
Yeah. So that's a double cross.
What do we call that?
Is there any such term as a double
cross? Yes, there is.
Oh, there you go.
I'll work out something.
Yeah. So that's what we got. But we I'm interested in the short here. I think there are probably. I mean, it's an interesting chart, really, isn't it? Because it does suggest upside. But I just, as I say, I don't have a fundamental reason for this to take off. So I've got to start looking for the short, and that's, as I said before, I'm much more interested in putting my bias on opinion than anything else, and then backing myself and seeing if I'm right. Because the amount of times that I've been right this week, but just haven't been able to get a pattern that I needed has been incredibly frustrating. So there's definitely G20 things out there, but I just don't see any clarity. Don't see any clarity with this market whatsoever.
Whereas I do. I'm totally clear on what has to happen today, trading wise. And
yeah,
the pound's gone.
Yeah.
I now can't trade that. I've just got to get that out of my mind. The euro's still there. The Aussie's still there. Euro CAD's still there. Euro yen, look, I really don't care what happens to euro. Well, I do. I'd like to see it hit target, of course. But if it comes back under here and retests, then I think there's a better trade on offer. So, I can't lose on that. That's going to be cool. Aussie yen, I'm not that fussed on. Euro Aussie, I'm not that fussed on. And pound yen certainly has gone. And oh my goodness, if only. You can't cry over spilt milk, but really, to be absolutely honest, guys, I should be in that. And I'm not.
On the pound yen.
No, on cable.
On cable, yes. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, as you said, but it's one of those, isn't it? Because you have been telling us about that weekly pivot. I mean, we did a whole bunch of analysis on it, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's it's an ill wind that blows no good, Ash, they tell me. And the good part about this now is that I've got another entry to my strategy. I've just added another entry to my strategy.
And is that to do with the weekly pivot, is it?
Look, it's a combination of things. It's prior knowledge, and that knowledge comes from the weekly pivot. Currently is the best possible source of resistance you can find for pound US dollar, because it's reacting.
Currently, yeah, and like that.
If you continue to see that and have a reason to trade it, even this little bar here, if you can work your strategy around this little bar here, look at the rewards available. My goodness. Paul Bottrell's been developing little strategies like that on the monthly pivot. This is pretty much the same. Although it's not the same, because what I'm saying is this continues to deny price. The weekly pivot continues to deny price.
Yeah.
So if you get the opportunity to trade it. Paul's method is completely different, because he relies on an untested monthly pivot. And I think you've got to hit that later in the month or whatever. It doesn't rely on continued bumps against it. It relies on one test and gone.
Yeah,
and to trade it on an hourly chart like this one here. Well, it's a 4-hour chart. But a little candle like that is good enough for him. And look at the reward you can get out of little candles like that. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's an 18 pip risk, maybe. Yeah, you probably want to put it above here. Let's call it a 20 pip risk. And you had 140 pips at one stage, 7-1, and in the you scale out at the bottom here, and then you're still in the trade. These are the little things that are very, very interesting. And here's another one right here, and I've missed that.
How would you handle that area, in around about the 11th and 13th? Because that was quite tough, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything on that chart. To catch that would have been very, very difficult because you've got this preceding it. Yeah, this is really messy and really hard to catch. I have no idea how you would get into that, but I'll work on it.
Yeah.
It's not to say you can't. It's just to say it's not evident from this chart, that's for sure. But
a bit tougher.
If you dig into it, there's probably something there. Although I'd have to say I find that impossible. If I'm looking at that, I'm finding it absolutely impossible to trade. But there you go. There again. This is a Paul Bottrell trade or a Wave Rider trade. You've got to, I don't know how you get all of that out of your head. Really don't. But, if they enter here, big rewards.
Yeah.
I'd prefer, a candle like this if it were decisive and broke above here. If it closed above this weekly pivot, that would be my signal to go, but it's not there, simply not there. That's the beautiful candle for me. And that again comes back to the one that we just missed. It's got to be bullish for me because I like to have that little bit of security that if I'm wrong, momentum will carry it this way and I don't get taken into a bad trade. So that's what I'd be looking for there. On a slingshot basis, I don't see any way into that, frankly. So it's just a matter of, I guess, amending and going back and having a look at these areas. Absolutely going back and having a look and say, well, how could I have got into this? And is it repeating itself? Is it something that continues to happen? That's where you find your strategies from.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I've just done now. I've looked at this and I've thought, well, if I see that again, with all the knowledge that I've got before me, if I don't trade that, I'm a lunatic. Because it's so obvious in retrospect that I should have traded that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. Talking of that, mate, we're probably about 40 seconds away from looking at this FTSE 100 trade.
Wow, where'd that go? Where'd that
yeah. So I'm going to get into this. Price is probably close enough. I'm going to be putting stops just above this area up here. So I'd like to really let this close down. See if I get one last push up. I'm selling this off, obviously, and 66. My area is about 69, so I'm probably only a couple of pips away from that. So I am going to trade that there. I've sold that. I'm just going to put it into my other account as well.
Okay, so we're selling FTSE while you do that, mate. I'll quickly go around and see if there's anything I need to do. Nothing there yet on the euro. Still looking to shorts. We'll give you those levels from Ash in a tick. Cable, look, it's really gone. I can't get interested in that right now unless there's a major retracement. Yeah, still looking for the lower high on the Aussie. Euro CAD exactly the same on all charts. Euro yen, if you're in this long that I called yesterday, nothing to do. You're free trading and happily looking for this target. If it comes back underneath this level, however, and retest the confluence, you've got to trade. Sorry, I've got to trade it short. You can do what you like, but I'll be trading this short if that's the case. Aussie yen, look, not that interested because we don't have a reversal situation. If we got up here and got a double top, then I'd look for a lower high. Same on Euro Aussie the other way. And pound yen, it's too far gone. I won't be trading that at all. So still looking for reversals on the Euro, Aussie, Euro CAD. And if I get one of those set up, happy days. And look, in particular, Euro yen. If this gets underneath here and retest this level, this is probably the trade of the week for me. Euro yen short. But having said that, hopefully it hits target long, which you should be already in. Right, Ash, that's me for the week, mate.
What's me too, mate. Me too. We got 70, 65. So on the FTSE 100 on FSFX, it's going to be 70.60 for a sell, and your stops are at around about 70.85. This is about a 20 pip stop.
All right, mate. Cool. Let's hope it hits the seller.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Which is where I'm headed, not too sure, not too far away.
Yeah. All right, mate. We'll have a great weekend. I will speak to you Monday. I'm away next week, but I think I've got Monday and Tuesday in with you. I'll be traveling Wednesday, but I'll be back for Thursday. But yeah, well, let's get back in on Monday and see how we get on.
All right, mate. Happy days. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Mate.
Yeah, you too, buddy. You too. Enjoy the seller.
Trade well, everyone, and just be a little bit patient. They'll come.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, man. See you later.
Oh, mate, can you please Skype PB?
Sure.